process that we used to develop this online course had three basic components: subject matter expertise, technical design, and creative input on how to make it look. And without those three pieces, it wouldn't have ended up looking like it did. Subject matter expertise came from Kellio Group, and working with our clients over the last 15 years to identify what information Canadians need to understand Indigenous and treaty rights. The technical component to make everything work was, of course, Connor Gottfried and Lyra, who took our ideas and made them move. And then the creative input was Stephen Rainforth, who took the ideas and the subject matter and made them beautiful. So without those three pieces, the project couldn't have worked. And so this iteration of the course took about 6 months of working on the project, kind of off the side of our desk, because we all have busy consulting projects. So this project took a very intensive 6 months to complete.
So I think there was three things that make this project really unique from an e-learning standpoint, and that make it award worthy: the content, the design, and the technology. I mean, what Tracy said, the content is really well researched, going back to commissions that were studied, and then Tracy's extensive experience delivering this and iterating on it. So the content is really what makes this course shine. But the other two sides of it, there's the design. Stephen Rainforth, we brought him in, and he did such a beautiful, amazing job on every single screen. Every single second of this course is graphic design. So that makes it really entertaining for people to watch. And the final element is the technology, which in this case, we did something really different. Instead of using Storyline or Captivate or another standard authoring tool, we used what we call Elevate 5. It's a technology that we invented for Adobe Animate that we've actually licensed to NASA. And it allows for the creation of a course that has custom design all throughout the interface. All of the elements can be fully custom designed, kind of like Flash used to be for developers before it was disposed of. So those are the three things that really make it shine, in my opinion: the content, the design, and the technology.
This subject matter is so complex that any barrier to accessing the information will prohibit people from going through the course. So from an award-worthy standpoint, that if there was any barrier to the technology that supports this course, or visually, if it wasn't presented in a proper way, people wouldn't take it. So I'm really happy to highlight the synergies between those three elements. Without one, it wouldn't be award-worthy.
I mean, number one, Tracy, she is inspiring. She took this project and innovated it and turned it into a beautiful educational tool that can just go all across all the boundaries. Beautiful thing. Her husband, Jeff, really great to work with. Stephen Rainforth, fantastic graphic designer. Can't say enough about his style. And then obviously the Institute for Performance and Learning. I mean, to provide an opportunity for us to be able to show our work and share ideas with our colleagues. It's great. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank all the Indigenous warriors who have come before me and my team, who have fought for 150 years to have their inherent Indigenous and treaty rights recognized and protected by the Government of Canada and other Crown authorities across Canada. So without their perseverance, being able to talk about Indigenous and treaty rights today wouldn't be possible.
So I'll start where we ended up, and that's with a modern learning experience that we called the Leading and Thriving as a Winning Team Practice Hub. This targeted executives, people leaders, and all individual Scotiabankers. Throughout the design process, we considered each of these populations and how they may interact with the experience. Unlike other learning programs, the Practice Hub was not meant to be linear. It wasn't supposed to be a traditional curriculum with a start and an end. We knew we were not going to be measuring success by completions, but rather engagement with the Practice Hub and ultimately encouraging capability development through real life scenarios and small micro practices that shift behavior over time. We also made an effort to design assets that learners could complete on their own or as a team. But it didn't start that way. When we started, we were trying to create a capability framework that supported a series of working norms and new tools that the bank was introducing. We quickly realized that 4 months into the pandemic, mandating working norms or a framework from the center was not going to work, and our focus and learning needed to be on behaviors that supported employees through this pandemic and beyond. There was an analogy that was used to describe the experience throughout the pandemic that resonated with me early on, and that was, we are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. So all to say that we knew we couldn't deliver a one-size-fits-all solution. We had 90,000 employees across the world. We were going to be developing in 3 different languages, and everyone was experiencing this change in different ways. We had employees learning new protocols in branches that remained open, people managers leading massive teams remotely for the first time, executives having to host frequent town halls and engage with their teams in new ways. And sometimes they're doing this from their kitchen table with a spouse or a child running around in the background. We had very tight timelines to adhere to in order to get resources out to employees quickly. So we partnered with Tuesday Afternoon Media early on. And the first thing we aligned on were the design tenets. There were 3, one being speed, second being simplicity, and the third being flexibility. So to address the speed, we employed some agile principles. We put together a cross-functional HR learning working team, secured their time and resources right from the beginning for the duration of the design and development process. This allowed for quick review cycles, feedback loops, and during that process, we were meeting daily, sometimes multiple times a day, just to make sure we were on the same page and we were moving as fast as possible. Our internal design and development resources worked very closely with Tuesday Afternoon Media to ensure that we were creating assets that could be optimized on our new LXP Scotia Academy, as well as aligning to our brand standards and making sure that we were delivering the best possible product, again, in lightning speed. So from the beginning, we designed the learning experience to be launched on Scotia Academy in phases, and we leveraged personas. So launching in phases allowed us to work iteratively, gaining feedback and increasing the validity of our assumptions along the way. TAM was also able to work in sprints, delivering multiple short videos or assets at a time for review. To create the 3 personas, so one for executives, people leaders, individual Scotiabankers, we completed interviews early on with subject matter experts. The personas were used to understand what specific challenges were at the forefront for these populations, as well as it helped us in learning consider how they would interact with the Practice Hub, and gave us an opportunity to test and map some of those possible learner journeys. Because again, this isn't a one size fits all. We're not expecting people to enter through the same door and exit through the same door. So the design also had to be simple. The Practice Hub was going to be self-directed, so we needed it to be easy to navigate. Even though there were 3 audiences, there was only one Practice Hub at the end of the day. And finally, the design had to be flexible. Nobody knew we were going to be in this situation 2 years later. And from the beginning of the design process, we didn't want it to be pandemic or COVID related learning. This was about developing capabilities that were important today, but also for the future. So something as simple as designing the assets in a way that we can continue to add new micro practice videos or new real life scenarios to refresh the Practice Hub and keep it up to date and relevant is just one example of how we built flexibility into the design process.
First of all, we want to thank I4PL for the recognition. Of course, we want to thank Scotiabank's Global Learning Team, and especially those who were part of the project. Alex Shipley, who led the design, development, and implementation. Jane Duffy, Jennifer McCry, and Sheila Prescott, our program manager. Thank you to this talented woman at Scotiabank for designing and creating a meaningful learning experience for more than 90,000 Scotiabankers globally. Our colleagues across the bank's geographic footprint are using this program and having a relevant experience thanks to you. I also want to mention that the results of this program are possible thanks to the commitment and sponsorship of Scotiabank Global Human Resources Leadership Team and the talent team led by Chantal Brick. Finally, our gratitude to our partners at Tuesday Afternoon Media. So thank you for all the individuals involved in this project.
So the process that I followed to get this program off the ground and available to folks, it really started at the beginning of the pandemic. And I just had lots of conversations with clients and other consultants who were struggling with, oh my goodness, I have all these in-person programs and how do I move them to online? So it was a lot of conversations, which ended up being understanding what the need was. And then I had a couple of colleagues who asked me to kind of coach them or advise them. And so I'd work with them one-on-one, helping them transform or redesign their programs. And that kind of planted the seed. And out of that grew, I think I have something that I can contribute here and something that I can share. So I kind of decided I'm going to do this program and communicated it and set up the dates. And then, of course, was busy scrambling, trying to get it ready and to figure it all out. So the process was really starting with having conversations with folks and just understanding what people were struggling with. So I think there's a few things that I'm proud of in this program that I'm happy to hear that the I4PL thought it made the program award worthy as well. So first and foremost, the program has a really solid design. I've been working in learning and development for over 20 years, and I've had the CTDP designation for, I'm not sure, maybe a dozen years at this point. So I really believe in solid instructional design. So that's kind of the first part of it. The other thing that I really like about the program and was important to me is that people are getting real work done. So they come into the program with a course that they need to design for online delivery. And then over the course of the program, they're actually working on it so that when they come out, they have something tangible that they can really work with. So there's a lot of application. It's not just the theory. And then I think the other piece was going back to kind of how this all originated and me having conversations with people to understand what the need was. I think this program really met people in their moment of need. So I met them where they needed help the most. So at the original version, there have been a few versions, but the original version was redesigning a program for online delivery. And so it assumed they had an in-person program that they were going to design for online, and it gave them really tangible, concrete steps to do that. The second iteration of the program has been recognizing that a lot of learning and development folks have maybe already redesigned their program. So it's backing it up a little bit and adding some upfront information and content around just instructional design in general. And so again, recognizing that the need is maybe shifted, and so shifting the program accordingly. And now the third iteration, which I'm working on right now, is really building out that upfront piece on instructional design and changing it into a blended program. So I think needs are always shifting, and I think if we can be in tune to that and meet people where they are, that makes for a great program. There's a few people that I'd like to thank for getting this program off the ground and for allowing it to continue. First, I'd like to thank Paul Shields. He's my technical producer and has been absolutely my right-hand support person. He helped me get started in July 2020 when I first launched it, and admittedly didn't always know what I was doing. And he was so quick to answer questions for me and just support me along the way. So I'm so appreciative, Paul, for all your help. The other person I want to thank is my admin assistant, Burmi Evangelista, and she's come on board more recently than Paul, but she's the one who's helping me keep the program going on an ongoing basis. So connecting with participants beforehand and during the program and helping me build out kind of new iterations. So thank you, Burmi, for all of your help too. And then the third group, actually not an individual, but the third group I'd like to thank is all the participants who've taken the program. And I know at the very beginning, I feel like people knew me and they knew what I did, but it was a new thing for me to offer my own thinking kind of out into the world instead of just designing programs for clients to own. So me offering a program with things that I knew was a bit of a leap of faith for me. And I so appreciate the people, especially those first folks who joined and took a chance with learning from me. So I appreciate that. And those first cohorts, but even ongoing cohorts have really been supportive. I think they recognize that I'm a small business. I have my own practice, and I like to keep offering this to as many people as I can. And so they've been giving me ongoing support, promoting it, always providing me with rich feedback. In the submission for this award, I emailed them all and I said, it's 6 months later. What's the impact that it's had now? And just being really willing to provide that feedback and help me along the way. So thank you to all the participants who've been in the program. And I look forward to having more of you in the program so we can learn from each other. Thank you.
So our partnership with the Condominium Management Regulatory Authority of Ontario, or CMRAO, spanned over the course of 5 months from April to September of last year. And we worked together to define a roadmap for the new educational requirements for condominium managers in Ontario, and then worked to make that roadmap more specific, build that out into a series of course blueprints that really kind of get specific in terms of our design principles and how we plan to execute the development of all of those courses. And our process really started by aligning on our goal with the CMRAO team. We then had a subject matter expert advisory group, a group of 8, who reviewed all our material, gave us feedback on the design direction. We then reviewed that as well with a larger group of 20, an advisory board, with people from backgrounds, things like condo managers, directors, people with accounting and legal experience. And as well, we got input from condo managers themselves and conducted a survey of all active registered condo managers across Ontario. We took all of that information in, applied that to our roadmap and our course blueprint design, and then summarized everything, the results of our research, our analysis, our design principles in a final report that is now published on the CMRAO website. So what makes our work with CMRAO award worthy, I think really starts with the fact that we heard the challenges from our subject matter experts and our target audience firsthand and made specific recommendations to address those. Really, the main themes that we heard in our interviews and in our surveys was a need for more practice, really hearing about the sort of challenge in maintaining relationships for condo managers and trying to find compromises between the board of directors, the residents, the contractors, other employees, and the ways that we took that information into our design. So first of all, we proposed a brand new relationship building course to address that, relationships are really at the heart of what condo managers do and that they need support with that. We started by proposing a mandatory introduction course to clearly communicate the expectations of what it means to be a condo manager. We start off that course with a self-assessment and a personal development plan, drawing on our knowledge that people come into condominium management with a variety of backgrounds and wanting to make a way for their education to be customized to their kind of background, their work experience, their education experience. Just the scope of the work as well. We proposed 6 courses. They're approximately 15 to 30 hours each. It's just sort of an impressive amount of work, of design work. And really to get at that need for more opportunities for practice, we proposed a sort of an innovative and interesting flipped classroom approach where our learners are spending some upfront time in a self-directed portion, learning independently, getting all the background knowledge. And then the second half of all the courses is entirely instructor-led and is entirely application-focused, giving time for those small group activities, case studies, scenarios, things like that. And running across all 6 of those courses, we integrated a holistic capstone project to allow our learners to practice the thing that we heard that was the single most challenging component of being a condo manager, putting together an annual operating plan, really sort of hard piece of work that really brings together everything that they do in that role. That's our sort of conclusion to the final course. And then really using that survey to hear directly from our learners to balance a sort of top-down approach in terms of driving the design and still kind of keeping our approaches learner-centric from hearing from them directly. So first of all, I'd like to thank our core CMRAO team, Ali Arlani, the CEO of CMRAO, for being a great co-designer, thoughtfully pushing our approaches and designs even further. Sandy Vizelli, the Deputy Registrar for CMRAO, and Angela Kapasouris, the learning specialist at CMRIO, for really providing detailed comments and reviews on all our material, and as well Angela for being our project manager, keeping us all on track and organized. And then as well, I have to thank our group of 8 subject matter experts for their generous time in our review meetings and reviewing all of our work. Our 20-person advisory board for the same thing, taking a lot of time to review our material, providing feedback. The group of 5 from our association and college members. The full names of all of those people you can see on the CMRIO website, where the full report and course blueprints are published. And then as well, I have to thank my colleagues on the project, Ellie Whittles, our instructional designer, and Jessica Knox, Metrics' CEO, for helping guide us through all of our difficult design decisions.
We took a look at what's happening in Canada. Right now, today, there's about 1 in 4 adults that are hypertensive. And if you're over 60, it's 1 in 2. And that means that your risk for any kind of cardiovascular disease or stroke gets very high. And we wanted to change the trajectory of people who were pre-hypertensive so they didn't get there. So they weren't at risk. How did we do it? We needed a lot of funding to embark on a big project. So we actually created a first in Canada, a social impact bond, where we took private investors and said, help us build a program. And if we achieve the health outcome, meaning lowering the blood pressure of our participants, the government will repay with a return, because it'll avoid so much cost coming into our healthcare system. So first step, we raised capital from private investors. Second, we built a really robust program with partners, and that included an online component, partners with the YMCA, Loblaws, a whole group, so that as you joined the program called Activate, you were able to get consultation with dietitian, you were able to get personal coaching, you had free membership to the gym, and you had online ongoing engagement for 6 months. And through all of that, we were really excited because we worked with about 4,000 people. We had recruit thousands more to find the 4,000. They went on the 6-month journey. We tracked the results, and we statistically significantly reduced people's blood pressure. This can be done, and you can change it, but it takes time, effort, and great partners. And we were very thrilled to be able to do it. I think there's 2 parts. One is strictly our approach to design. We used learning experience design principles. So it was very action oriented, that people had tasks and things to do. They could choose their path. So it was very human centered in terms of what they could do. There was continuous feedback, both from our online app and from the coaches, to help people feel good about their goals and to understand how they could make course correction. And we created many learning domains. There were in-person experiences, online experiences, self-directed experiences, peer-to-peer experiences, all of that. So the whole design makes it award-winning, but we also think our approach, where we created the first social impact bond in the country. And that's going to be a game changer for healthcare and for not-for-profits going forward. We transformed government processes. We made it easier for new initiatives to take root in this country. So it's where great learning design meets great execution. We think that was why we were award worthy. There's so many people to thank. First and foremost, the participants. We had 1,000 people meant 6 months of their lives to change their diet, their fitness, and their levels of stress. We want to thank our volunteers. We relied on Ryerson, Centennial College, all who helped us with our recruiting efforts. Our volunteers were extraordinary. Our partners, Interact, Loblaw, Shoppers, the Public Health Agency of Canada, YMCA, Mars Center for Impact Investing, all of them were extraordinary as we collaborated through this. Of course, our investors who had the vision and the capital to help make this happen. And finally, the Heart and Stroke team itself, who were entrepreneurial, nimble, and just so committed to make this work. So thank you to all of them.